Hey there, Daniel from growyourmusicstudio.com, coming to you again with a live video as I'm going to do every day this month, or every weekday this month of December. Just trying out something fun, something new. Today I'm really excited because this is the first video in what is going to be a series of videos that explores 9 different drivers of studio growth. And just kind of a thought and background on this, this is my interpretation for our industry of a framework that comes from a really successful business genius named Jay Abraham. Basically, this is a framework with which to think of business, but it's general because he's someone who worked with a lot of different businesses. What I have done is taken that framework and done the hard work of thinking about the implications for voice lessons, a big music studio that has multiple instruments, all the way down to a small studio. So no matter what size you are, there's something here for you that can be applied to what you're doing. And what I will say is that my goal here is to actually be able to apply this for you in both domains. So if you are a large studio owner, this will apply to you. If you're a small studio owner, this will apply to you. So I'm not going to get into the 9 different things today. I'm going to do that over a series of days. Today I just want to look at the first 2 drivers. And those first 2 drivers are marketing and strategy. I also want to point something out. A lot of people come to me, they'll email me, I'll have a phone call with them, people might Facebook message me and say, I don't even know where to begin when thinking about growing my studio. We're struggling. And I get this from studio owners that have 150, 200 kids. They barely have any margin left over after they pay all their costs, their rent. And then all the way down to studios that have 10 to 15 people in them. And they come to me and they say, I just don't even know where to begin. I don't know where I should put my focus. And what I will say is, this framework, just the categories themselves, will help change the way you think about things and will help you begin to get an inkling, to get a starting conception of where you should begin in terms of growing revenue, growing your student base, that sort of thing. So let's get right to it. The first one. Marketing. That might be for some people the place where they start and end. And the truth is that on my blog, this is what I primarily focus on. I do talk about some other general business topics, but by and large, I've stayed in my lane and sought only to talk about marketing. So when people think about growing their studio, that is the first place their mind goes. But it's only one out of 9 of these drivers. So here's the primary thing to think when you're thinking about marketing. When you're considering, okay, I want to grow, I want to do it with marketing, how do I do that? And it's this. Look at what you're doing and looking if you're getting everything you possibly can out of what you're already doing. Okay, so you have a website. Whether you get 1 student a month, 5 students a month, 10 students a month, 20 students a month from that website, because it's going to cost you the same amount of money to host that website. It's going to cost, if you choose to have an outside company build that website for you, or an outside marketing entity, whether it be a contractor or a freelancer or whatever, you're going to pay a certain amount of money to host that website, to have that website built. It costs the same amount to you whether or not you're getting 1 student a month from it or 20 students a month. So look at what you're doing there. How do you optimize that asset, that property, that web address that you have? How do you optimize it to get the most you can out of it? Furthermore, if you have $1,000 to spend on marketing for the year, or $10,000, if you're a small studio or you're a large studio, are you getting everything you can possibly get out of that money? Again, this is a mindset to think of big picture. This isn't a specific marketing strategy. This is a driver of growth in your business, and you have to think strategically about these things. So here's a good example. There are general marketing agencies out there that will help you grow your business no matter what it is. There are actually some specific marketing agencies out there, or other people that are similar to me. They have a website promising to help you grow your studio, this sort of thing. I've looked into a lot of the different of these services, and unfortunately, even within our industry, there are some people out there that have only recently caught up to the digital age, where for a long time they were only recommending direct mail. and they had a system or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that direct mail as a way to get more business for your studio is really a very poor and non-cost effective way to do it. There are better ways to spend that money. So even if you have $1,000 to spend on direct mail, you could get a better return for your money spending that $1,000 on AdWords or Facebook ads, just because it's cheaper, just because you're not having to buy all those stamps. You're going to get way more reach using AdWords than you would doing direct mail. Or, and I like to go to this one because I used to do it, sponsoring a sports team, or having a banner up on the outfield wall in the local Little League, that sort of thing. So think strategically. Am I getting the most out of my website? Am I getting the most out of my advertising spend? Am I getting the most out of my social media page? Is it a driver of growth in my business or is it not? And if it isn't, then stop wasting your time, shut the page down, or get educated on what you need to do to make that social media page work better. Get educated on what you need to do to make your ad campaigns work better. Get educated on what you need to do to make the money you have in your business work harder for you. This is the big idea, getting the most out of what you have. And I'll say, I mentioned this yesterday or 2 days ago when I mentioned those business books that have been really influential on me. Really, you can be constantly educating yourself, and whatever you choose to put your money or time or energy or effort into, continue and continuously strive to improve your knowledge in that area, either so that you can do it yourself or so that you have the knowledge and the education necessary to go find someone that can do it for you really well, so that you even know, oh, this guy's a ripoff, this guy is not. Oh, this is a bad deal on someone doing my AdWords for me, this guy's a good deal. Oh, this guy clearly knows what he's talking about, this guy doesn't. You have to have a base level of knowledge. Even if you choose not to do it yourself, you have to have a base level of knowledge to know what is a good deal and what isn't. So last thoughts here in the marketing section, and I'm going to go to number 2. I mentioned this in I've been doing so many of these videos, I don't even know when I said this, but I think it was sometime earlier this week, that it is entirely ethical to go and look at a big name studio, a really successful studio, 500, 1,000 students. Look at what they're doing in their marketing. Don't copy it, but look at what they're doing. Look at the strategy they're taking. If you do this, it will give you a conception of what you could do that's similar to that. Or, if you see a big name studio using AdWords as opposed to direct mail, well, that's probably why they grew to that size. A studio or a chain of studios doesn't grow to that size by accident. They had a good marketing strategy that they were, going on. Look at what dance studios and karate studios are doing. Typically, those businesses are harder to start. Most of those businesses don't start in the instructor's home. They had to have a business plan when they got started. They had to have a pretty solid marketing plan when they got started, because they knew right up front they were going to have upfront, costs, marketing costs, rent costs, retail location cost. And so a lot of times those are run from the beginning a little bit more solidly than most music studios are. And it's a fact of our industry, because a lot of times the big music studios started with a single teacher, and a talented teacher grew that and then eventually moved out of their house and into someplace else. It isn't always true, but oftentimes it is true. So look at what they're doing in their marketing. Look at what's working for them. Just peruse their websites. Look at how their websites flow. Look at the offers they're giving. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I certainly didn't, and I certainly don't recommend anyone else do that as well. So that's another thing. Third thing, look at more cutthroat industries and look at the techniques they're using. I would say one of the reasons that I'm even standing here in front of you right now and talking to you right now is that I didn't look primarily at what people in our industry were doing for marketing. I looked outside our industry, and I looked in some of the most cutthroat industries there were, and that is the online sales industry. Online advertising, internet marketing, freelancers who are really, really good at getting customers for other people's businesses. I looked at what they're doing, I looked at the techniques, and they were far superior to what we do typically in the music teaching industry, and they were because they were doing marketing for big name businesses. And the kinds of things that $1 million or $2 million or $10 million a year business will do on their websites in terms of their marketing, or just in their marketing strategy overall, it's designed for a much bigger industry. And therefore, if we take that and apply it here, it's like bringing a flamethrower to a stick fight. I mean, you're going to win. And so as I looked at some of those other industries and began to emulate what they were doing in my studio, I had a really, really, thanks, Jana. I see that comment there. We can learn a lot from other industries. As I looked at that and saw what they were doing and I started applying it in my studio, it was really eye-opening for me, and I experienced rapid growth after that. So that's that. Okay, so that was the first driver of business growth, marketing. Second one is strategy. And this, I'm going to distinguish from marketing and saying that you can have a marketing strategy, but your business overall has a strategy whether you realize it or not. And I'm not going to get into the super big specifics with this, but you can really transform your results by thinking strategically about your business, okay? So I think this is a hard one for people to grasp. I know it was hard for me to grasp. So I'm going to illustrate with kind of this idea. Most people don't think, most studio owners don't think much farther than, okay, my strategy is to get more students and therefore profit. What that does, by having that as your goal, as your strategic goal, it lends itself to all kinds of short-term thinking. We got to make budget next month. How do we get more students in the door right now? Because if the strategic goal is just more students, well, you can do that anytime. And so what I often find is studio owners that have a somewhat good grasp on marketing, the marketing is all designed for that short-term goal. So this is the mindset that I would recommend that you have to kind of get out of that short-term thinking and to get into a little bit more of long-term thinking. Think more than about what you're going to do to get students next month. Think about the entirety of your business. And the helpful exercise would be, ask yourself this. If I wanted 1,000 students in my studio or in my music school, would my current marketing, my current enrollment system, my scheduling systems, would it be able to handle it? And if the answer is no, then what you have to do is go back to the drawing board and think, okay, what would my marketing have to be to get there to 1,000 students? What would my enrollment system have to look like to handle that kind of load? What would my scheduling system or communication systems have to look like to handle that load? Now, here's the thing. You might not have any interest in having a school of 1,000. But what I'm saying is when you think that way, you're having a growth mindset. And the mere fact that you're thinking that way will transform the way you think strategically about your business. And you'll end up having a much easier career at 50 students in your studio, if that's the desire, than you would have had you just been thinking, oh, I want 50 students. So the goal isn't to actually get to 1,000 students, although some watching might want to do that. The goal is to think longer term and think about the result you want. So many teachers that I talk to feel overwhelmed, stressed out in their business, and they have like 35 students. And I'm thinking to myself, why is that? And then I go and I look at their systems and it completely explains why. They're building a studio with the idea of only having 35 students, and they're not thinking long-term enough to think, I could really solve all the communication problems in my studio of 35 if I treated it as if it were a much larger studio. And this is what I've done in my studio. I've talked about it in the past. I'll certainly talk about it again in the future. I barely think about my studio at all because I've automated, and I talked about this yesterday actually, because of the automation that I've put in the business, because of what I've chosen to do in terms of communication and all the systems and procedures I have in place, I really don't think about admin all that much. Most days I show up into the studio at 3 o'clock. I hadn't thought about it before then, and I leave at 7:35, and I don't think about it after that. The thing pretty much runs on its own, but it's because I've thought much more long-term than right now. Here's the final question to ask yourself. What are you comfortable ending up with? Really think about that. What are you comfortable ending up with? Go out 5 years. Ask yourself, what do I want 5 years from now? What do I want in revenue? What do I want in terms of how my students respond to me? And then begin backwards designing. Really reverse engineer what it is that you want to end up with. And then ask yourself, what do I have to put in place right now to make that a reality? So that's where I'm going to end it today. Like I said, there are 9 drivers of business growth. This was 2, marketing and strategy. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about something that even big studio owners often don't think about. And when I say big, I mean like 100 to 200. Capital and assets. So you think capital, you're thinking like, well, Apple and Amazon, they need capital. They're multi-million-dollar businesses. But again, if you take these mindsets and internalize them, and you're thinking about these bigger, higher level concepts, it can so change your business. So tomorrow will be capital, assets, and also your business model. So we're going to talk about those tomorrow, and then I'm going to continue. Wait, tomorrow's Friday, I think. So then I will continue going on early part of next week, and continuing going right down the list. So I'm very excited to do this with you. As I mentioned, I am doing a video every single day, weekday this month. Probably won't do Christmas, but going to continue doing these just for fun. Ask questions below if you have them, either following up on some of the things I've said here, or if you have a question you want me to answer, I can put it down in a little list. I actually had a list of questions that people had asked last week, and I lost it. I lost it while I was in Chicago, and so I'm going to have to either go back and look those questions up, but I promise I won't lose your questions if you leave them below right now. If you like this video, like it. If you really love this video, share it to one of the piano teacher groups. I'd really love and appreciate that. Some of these videos have been shared by folks, and it started some really great conversations in those groups as well. So anyway, thanks for watching. I love you guys. Leave me a comment. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.